Welcome back to Off the Rip, episode number 9. Now, this is the ninth episode, which means we're getting pretty close to hitting double digits. And when I first started making Off the Rip about 2 months ago now, my aim was to do this for 5 years. I've kind of signed like a contract with myself that I'm going to commit to this for 5 years because I don't believe this is something I'm going to become professional at in a matter of months. I think the format and the flow of the podcast has become so much better. But I think, again, if you're watching this and you're thinking of starting something, give yourself time. Don't rush it because sometimes things take time. And that's okay, man. Today, I want to talk about the idea of paying attention because it's pretty damn relevant to me right now and in this exact moment. To be completely candid, I recorded this episode only moments ago and I just bottled it halfway through and I stopped the button and I just catastrophized. And that's fine because we're back and I ain't lying down. This episode has been particularly difficult for me to record. I think last week I came in with this new energy. I was just back from holidays. Everything felt a lot better. I had the momentum on my back and I was riding that momentum. I was working better. I was training better. My routine was better. And already this week, just less than 10 days after being away, I feel like I'm back into that weird routine that I found myself in before I went away. That routine to me consists of not waking up when I want to wake up, not getting the things that I want to get done, and losing my mind in terms of where I put my attention. And that's, again, what I want to talk about today. I think we have a limited amount of attention that we can spend on things every single day. And I think that the world conspires against us, not in a pessimistic or a sympathetic way, but I think the world is designed by nature to take your attention. Everything is so beautiful, man. Even if we look at nature at its plainest form, going for a walk, I think that's a healthy form of your attention being taken because you're looking at this beautiful landscape. You're looking at all these things that are natural. They've grown from the ground with a little bit of water and some sunshine. But then on the flip side, we have social media, we have our phones, we have laptops, Netflix. Anything like that is designed to take your attention because if they can buy your attention from you, they get people using their products and they make more money. We are in a war on attention. I've said this before. I've heard so many people use it, and I love the phrase because it makes so much sense to me. If you make videos, you're looking for people's attention because you want them to watch your video. I'm no different by making this podcast. I feel like there's something in it that's particularly relative to me. I feel like when I record these episodes, it's kind of like, a lot of them are relative to where I feel like I'm at the moment, but also they're things that I'm passionate about and interested about. And last week I came in, I had scripted the episode and I had an idea that I wanted to run with. This week is no different, but I feel like last week was a little bit broader and it wasn't so much about me. It was more about trends that I'm seeing in social media and also my genuine love for the thing because it's changed my life and it continues to do so. And we're watching social media right now. If you're watching the pod, and if you're not watching the pod and I'm watching the pod, then I'm just watching social media. You have to pay attention. It's not this thing that's for free. And I think this is something I'm really trying to figure out because I'm 23 years old. I've gone to college. I've done 2 different years in college. I've worked a job and now have my own business. And this is my new priority. This is what I've been focusing on and paying attention to for the last 2-3 years. But you have to pay attention. It's not, you don't just get attention for free. You have to pay for it and you have to pay for it with time. At least that's how I see it right now. I can't pay somebody currency to give me attention. I have to pay with my time to get attention. When I'm using and trying to be deliberate with my intention, I feel like I do better work. I feel like I feel better in myself and I feel like I'm happier overall because I'm aware of what's going on. And maybe this is just a different way of describing presence, I used to meditate a lot when I was younger and I found that so beneficial. And I think people throw the word meditation around and normally when I speak to people about it, I get the weird look. But meditation doesn't mean sitting on the edge of a rock with your fingers pointed for frickin' an hour. It just means quieting yourself down and just listening to whatever's going on in here. Because 9 times out of 10, what's going on in here is important. I do think your brain has a subconscious filter that lets in what's important. I've talked about this before when I first quit my job. There was a feeling in my gut and in my head that I wasn't listening to, and it was causing me so much stress and anxiety by just avoiding it because it was there all the time. When I quit my job, there was a huge release of that anxiety. I freaked out, but after the fact, I felt much better. When I came back from holidays, similar to that experience, I felt so much better. I felt like I had gone and worked through a lot of things that I had building up in my mind. And then I came back to work last week and I broke the back on the week. I smacked it around the place like I was CM, short for Conor McGregor. And I felt great. Had a nice day Saturday, went and played golf on Sunday, never played golf before. Went and played golf for 4 hours, swung the ball around a little bit, and I came in feeling fresh on Monday. Now it's Wednesday at this point, and I feel like I have been put to a stake and berated. But I haven't been. It's simply in my own head. Like, I just believe that I've had the hardest week ever, but I haven't. And I don't actually think I've had the hardest week ever. It's just been challenging. I think there's a couple of things that will steal your attention. And for me, it's the likes of meetings, urgent calls, urgent edits, these things that are super important to do now. But they're such small tasks and they take this big window of time out. I watched an Alex Hormozi video yesterday, and I'm going to reference it quickly. He kind of talked about the idea of there's two different time frames in a working day. There's manager time and there's maker time. And I think being a small business owner like myself, you have to float between these two times. You know, if your sole job is an editor, you're going to live in maker time 9 times out of 10. This is time that's generally uninterrupted. You have long hours of focused work that you can create, because it's hard to create things in a timeline. The minute you start putting timelines and extremely fast deadlines on creative projects, the creativity is often sapped out of them. Now, sometimes a deadline is important in a creative project because it gives you something to work towards and it allows you to structure your thoughts. But if those deadlines are detrimental, they're detrimental if they're too short, if they're too aggressive, if those deadlines are interrupted by constant check-ins and updates and meetings, that time is destroyed. You have to have a long period of time where you can sit and focus, think, and then execute. And for me, that maker's time right now is important because I'm trying to push the business forward. And for me to think about how I can do that and to actually execute it, I feel like I need to give myself that time. And I think I'm at this crossroads because I'm realizing, again, as a small business owner, you have to wear both hats. I have to wear the hat of the manager because essentially I'm the head of production, I'm the head of marketing, I'm the head of the company, I'm the head of operations. So all of these things I have to do. And I say I have to as if it's like an obligation gun to my head. It isn't. I could stop tomorrow and it'd all be fine. Well, it wouldn't. I'd be very disappointed in myself. I feel like sometimes when I'm talking about these things, it almost sounds like a pity me party, but it's not. I'm speaking about it because it's relative to me right now. And hopefully there is somebody else that's in a similar boat. Maybe they just haven't come through and they're not thinking about it this way, or potentially I'm thinking about it in the wrong way and someone will tell me in the comments. But more importantly, when I look back, as I always say in these episodes, in a year, 2 years time, I'll be glad that I actually documented this so I can sit and think about it, because these things happen so fast and it's so hard to get on top of. And even as I said, talking about recording this podcast and then bottling it halfway through, I haven't done that since I started recording these episodes. And that to me is a sign that I am stressed and I'm not thinking super clearly. Stress is a good thing. I've talked about this before. You know, stress is a catalyst for action. If you know, when we were back as cavemen and a tiger came at us, if we didn't have any form of stress, we would have sat and been eaten. So if you're prone to stress, maybe you were at the top of the animal kingdom at one point in time. I think I'm trying to work 2 jobs at the same time in the same day. And I think I need to realize that if I really want to take this seriously and I really do want to grow, I have to work 2 jobs. I have to work one job, which is the maker, and one job, which is the manager / operations overseer, or whatever you want to call it. Because if you don't work both, you're going to end up being in a similar place over a 6-year time period. You'll make marginal profits. You'll make marginal increases in growth, and things will move really slowly. But if you want to move faster, I think you have to commit the time up front, because you either pay for currency with time or you pay for your time with currency. And I've split it out where I'm paying for a little bit of my time back with some currency, but I'm also paying for money with my time. I'm still in that paradox, and I think you always will be. But for me, that is the true definition of financial freedom, is when you can just pay for your time with money. You know, the prime example of that is a private jet. It's essentially time travel. You don't have to deal with all the airport shenanigans that you usually do. You don't have to deal with the queues. It's faster. So you can literally pay a large amount of money to gain back time. That is financial freedom to me. And that is an extreme example of financial freedom, but that is the goal. Pay attention to yourself. You have the answers. The world is designed to distract us. As I'm discussing right now, I'm in this period where I came back in last week. Everything was running smoothly. I had been really rigid with my routine and my schedule. I had outlined rules for myself to follow to ensure that I could continually pay attention to myself and hear the ideas out fully and feel like I was connected and like in sync with myself. But the world is designed by default to take that attention away from you. Everybody's thing is the most important thing to them. And sometimes I'm a person that's very guilty of this. I'll prioritize everything else other than my own thing. And then what happens is I fall into these routines where I'm just going through habitual actions. I'm just doing things because it's a habit. I'm doing things because I have to do them. I'm not doing them with any presence or any intention. And that, for me, leads me into this agitated, overwhelmed space where the work quality lowers and the stress increases. Where last week, the work quality was way higher and the stress was super low. Now, I don't think this is going to last very long. I have two particularly big projects coming up this week. I have two, one on Thursday, one on Friday. And then I have another big one on the following Monday and Tuesday. And there's a lot of planning going into these things. It's also my first time doing a bigger production where we have multiple creatives working. We're trying to structure everything, get sign off from the client. Like there's a lot of moving parts and I find that overwhelming. I'm not used to working with a big team like that, especially when they're not, an in-house team. So it's super exciting because it's something new. And I really do think we're going to do a great job, but it's stressful. And I think that's okay. I think, again, as I said, stress is good. If you weren't stressed about this, Dylan, you'd be a psychopath. So pay attention to yourself, I think you probably have more answers and you have more of an idea as to what you need to do or what you should do if you were to just sit and listen to yourself. Again, I've spoken about this before, but, lock yourself in a room, take out a pen, piece of paper, and just write. Just write. Don't look at your phone. Don't look at your laptop. Don't listen to music. Just let your brain wander. Get the ideas out on paper, almost like the pensive in Harry Potter when Dumbledore pulls out his thoughts and puts them into the bucket of water. That's what you want to be doing sometimes with journaling. I've also heard and seen studies that it's not super beneficial to like journal and fixate on your problems. You kind of want to journal with the idea of coming through them, not journal about how bad it is or how great it is. You kind of want to let it ride so that you're coming from beginning to end, and maybe you come out with something, or maybe you get stuck and you think that's something I have to come back to, or that's something that there's something in there. There's a quote by Rick Rubin that I'm going to read to you here on the idea of paying attention. Now, the last time I read it, when I previously recorded the episode, I absolutely bottled it, so I'm going to paraphrase it a little bit. The ability to look deeply is the root of creativity. To see past the ordinary and the mundane, and to get to what might be invisible for ordinary people. Now, no hate to ordinary people, but if you're a creative person, I think this is super important. It kind of dictates for me paying attention. If you're paying attention and you're present, you're going to see so much more than the average person. Whether that means you go for a walk through the city and you notice the way that building's shaped, it says something to you or it speaks to you, or maybe you're doing work and you see somebody wrote a tweet and inside that article, you're like, there's something that's interesting, and you go down that rabbit hole. I think just pay more attention. Walk around with your two eyes open, your two ears open, and your nose on fire. It's a hard one though, because on the flip side, as I've written here, you don't want to go too internal and you also don't want to go too external. So when I say paying attention externally is what I just discussed there. You see nice buildings, you see beautiful landscapes, you see really nice videos, you see nice movies, all of these external stimulations, things that cause you, move you, and they're not internal. So being exteroceptive. And then on the flip side, you don't want to be too interoceptive, where you're thinking internally all the time and you're fixating on your thoughts and you're fixating on things that have happened and going down those rabbit holes. You need to try and find this balance. At least that's what I've found works for me. When I'm aware of what's going on around me, but I'm not spending all of my time there. And on the flip side, I'm not spending all of my time ruminating and subconsciously fixating. Well, not subconsciously, because I don't dictate that, but consciously ruminating on these things that probably aren't worthwhile to do so. I think if you start paying attention to yourself deliberately, put aside time every single week. That's what I've been doing, at least. I'm putting aside time to write. I'm putting aside time to sit and try to meditate. I'm not very good at it right now, but I know that it's something I need to work on, because I find myself being very unpresent a lot of the time, just thinking about work or thinking about things that need to be done. And then I get stressed. And essentially, I'm just stressing about my imagination. A lot of these things haven't happened yet. They cause you stress, but they're not even real. So that's maybe a little bit too philosophical. It's all good. No one's really watching these episodes right now, which is a nice thing. Feels like I can really riff and say things that mightn't necessarily be true. But last week's episode did awesome. So if you did watch that and you are watching these episodes, thank you so much. It means the world, for real. For me to be able to come on here and talk and have 20 people, even less. If there was 10 people watching these episodes, I'd be satisfied, man. 10 people is a big space, you know? If there were, again, I've said it in a previous episode, but if there was 10 people in here, I'd be happy. All right. Finish something. Do your best to just finish something, man, because, you know, I'm going to read you another quote before I start talking about this. Saw this one on Twitter too. You need to prove to yourself that you have what it takes to produce something. There are no artists, athletes, scientists, or entrepreneurs who became great by half finishing their work. I know I have a tendency to start and not finish so many things. I've done it to countless videos, and I've talked about doing the thing, but sometimes the equal importance is to finish the thing. Start it and finish it. Because the minute you start it, now there's something there, but you have to pursue that until the end. So once you get in that pocket, don't let it slip. That's what I focused on last week, and I'm really trying to find that momentum again. I came home and I had momentum. I had a little bit more fire in me, and I wanted to make sure I burnt every bit of that fire, and potentially I burned a little bit too much, and maybe I'm just overtired. Shorten your to-do list, structure your time, show up with intention, finish, and iterate. And that's an infinite game of improvement. So look at your to-do list. Look at all the things that you're doing on a day and think, how necessary are some of these? Because I guarantee you some of those things are just on there because they should be on there, not because they need to be on there. And there is a huge difference. I should do so many things, but I also need to do a select few things. And if I did the things that I needed to do, I would probably be much better off than if I did the things I should do. You can decide what's important. You know what's most important, because I know that if I was to sit down and do one edit versus if I was to sit down and do a whole roadmap for the year, the roadmap is going to be much more beneficial to me over the long period of time versus doing the one video edit. And that might be a short form. There's particular videos that are more important, but anyways, that mightn't be the best example. Structure your time. You know, put time blocks in. Use a calendar, any calendar, Google Calendar. I use Notion Calendar, and block off your time, because very easily that time will be taken up with other things. And if you start blocking off your time, you'll also realize how much time you're either putting into something or how much time you're not putting into something. But if you don't have it there, you won't be able to see it. And if you can't see it, you can't improve it. Show up with intention. If you're going to start the thing, finish the thing. Don't start the thing just because you want to tick a box. Start it because you need to get it finished, and show up with intention. Think about what you're doing and act with intention. Finish the thing to completion, because if you don't finish it, it's not worth showing. And if it's not worth showing, you haven't really done anything. Start it, finish it, and iterate it, because the only way to get better is to make the thing. And if you've made the thing, you can improve the thing, but you cannot improve on nothing. Okay, this might be a shorter episode, but I'm going to keep it short and sweet because I don't want to go on for too much longer. Hopefully next week's episode is a little bit more fun and a little bit more celebratory, because we're hitting our 10th episode, which I'm pretty stoked about, to be honest, because again, I started this podcast and it was a struggle to even talk for 10, 15 minutes about things. And I feel like I've been getting into a pocket. I think today's episode was an exception, but I'm feeling a little bit of stress from the workplace. So possibly that's a natural reaction. I'm going to leave you guys here. Love y'all, and thank you for watching once again. And if you want to subscribe, subscribe. If you don't want to subscribe, don't subscribe. But I love you equally. Okay, people. Peace.